Let's talk.
John Brown.
Medal Man. Sunday evenings wouldn't be the same without Mark Smith on Antiques Roadshow. Military memorabilia and medal specialist Mark Smith has written this book called Medal Man about his father's war and stories that fostered Mark's enduring fascination. I'm delighted to say that joining me live on the line is the Medal Man himself, Mark Smith. Mark, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you.
Good to have you with us. Whereabouts do we find you this morning? Are you are you exploring some medals somewhere? Or are you in your library surrounded by tomes? Where do we find you this morning?
I am actually in my library. Yes, I live in Somerset, so yes, I'm in my library. The medals aren't quite out of the box yet. We've only just moved, so
right.
They're here though.
Now, here's the thing. Medal Man, Dad, me, and the Second World War. This is fascinating because it's a personal take on your father's experiences, and it is the generation that didn't seem to talk an awful lot about their experiences.
You see, my dad was slightly different. My dad was sort of so engrossed in what he'd done during World War II that my bedtime stories were stories of his trips in his aircraft. So we would go to, go up to bed, as it were, for the bedtime story. He'd get out his logbook, and we'd find a raid that he'd been on, and we would do the raid together. He would narrate what happened that night, that day. Wow. As a bedtime story, yes. Absolutely rubbish. I mean, truly, never went to sleep. But as a story, they were fantastic. And when my nan gave me my dad's medals when I was about 6,
yeah.
And I came home and Dad went, "What are you doing with them?"
Yeah.
That was the beginning of my dad and I's journey with medals and history and military history. And underlying all of that was and is the story of his best friend who was killed standing next to him in an attack over Sumatra.
Right.
And my dad talked about Harry every day. And it wasn't until we'd collected medals together, I'd done all of the things I'd ever done with magazines and books, and Dad had been there all the time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the week that he was dying that I said to him, "How long did this last for, this attack that Harry was killed in?" And he said, 9 seconds. Mm. And that's when it hit me that my dad's world was those 9 seconds. And that's why he told me about stories like that every day, because at some point in that story, there was always a mention of Harry. Mm. So throughout my entire collecting world, my love of medals, I had this real person, Dad, yeah. and his best friend who had actually served, and one of them hadn't come home. And we built this medal collection together, and my fascination for these things through the history of not the medals, but the people who earned them, the men and the women behind the medal. That's the fascinating bit. And that's really where the book comes from.
Because here's the thing. Because it is. I mean, if you look at a medal, it kind of looks slightly. It's a piece of metal on a brightly coloured ribbon. I mean, signifying in purely. If you were to take it as base metal, signifying nothing. But you absolutely on that. It is the stories of valour, or perhaps just the stories of campaigns that we don't know about. Because we're talking here. Your father's RAF, but it's not in Europe, is it? It's a different theatre. Explain to me. What your father was, RAF, but he's not in Europe, is he? He's in.
No. So that is a wireless operator air gunner in a Catalina flying boat.
Ooh.
So he starts off his war as part of Coastal Command, flying out of Northern Ireland, bringing or escorting in transport ships with American soldiers in for D-Day.
Yeah.
Flying almost up to Iceland and back, looking for U-boats. Then they move out to the Far East, and he does the same in the Bay of Bengal, looking for Japanese submarines. But then what happens is that part of 240 Squadron was a thing called B-Flight Special Duties. And the guys in B-Flight were part of Force 136 Special Operations Executive, SOE.
Yeah.
And their job was to take SOE and OSS, that's American secret agents, to the Japanese-held islands, land, and then let the agents off into the Japanese-held island, and then a couple of weeks later, when the full moon was back, they would go back and try and collect them. And in all of the trips that my dad did, they only ever went back and got out one lot of agents. All of the rest of them perished in the jungle.
Blimey. And the Catalina flying boat, for those who don't know, is this bug-eyed thing. It looks a bit like a dragonfly, doesn't it? And it's got a ridiculous range. What is it, 28? It can go 28 hours without refueling or something like that?
Yeah, so one of Dad's flights, which is in his logbook for one of these special operations that they did, they flew from a place called Red Hills Lake in Madras, which is now Chennai, and they flew to the South China Sea and back again. And their aircraft held the record for the longest operational flight of 36 hours, 25 minutes without refueling.
Oh, and this isn't like in business class, is it? This is horrible, and it's cramped, and it's smelly, and it's shaking all over the place.
A couple of months ago now, I was invited to go and fly in a Catalina.
No.
Yeah, there's only one left really that flies. It comes out of RAF Duxford, old RAF Duxford, and I flew for an hour in a Catalina over London.
Yeah.
And this is nothing like flying on your holidays. It was genuinely appalling.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so bumpy, it was so loud, it was so hot, it was just horrible. And I sat there and I thought to myself, I've listened to all these stories of my dad. I did over 1,000 hours in one of these aircraft. And, you know, I'm proud of him anyway, but on that day I said, Dad, I genuinely, mate, I don't know how you did this. You're a proper hero, son.
Yeah, and there's all these stories about people sort of like, you know, taking primer stoves up to make bacon and eggs even, and then them spotting a U-boat or something and having to dive, and you know, there's sausage, there's bacon and egg going everywhere.
Yeah, that's it. That'd be the one. Yeah. So in the end of all of this, at the not wishing to spoil the book for anybody because it's a pretty good read, but I promised myself, and I suppose I promised Dad, that one day I'd go and see Harry where he's buried in Madras in Chennai, because they brought him back from Sumatra when he was dead. Bless him. He was 22 when he was killed, and last year, 80th anniversary of Harry being killed. Yes, I made the pilgrimage, and we found the cemetery, and I found Harry, and it was an amazing moment because, you know, this is a lad. Obviously, I never knew, but I've known him all my life through Dad's stories. And I got there, I found this headstone, I turned the corner, and I said, hello, Harry. You don't know me, but I'm here on behalf of Les, which was my dad. Yeah. And then everyone burst into tears in the cemetery. It was very, 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 very moving. It really was.
And if you think about it, I mean, because war is so horrendous, you know, these are young lads from basically South London who end up in some corner of a forgotten field, basically. And people may not know about Chennai and Sumatra and all those things and all those young men. And you just think at 21, 22 years old, and that's Harry, you know?
Yeah, bless him. He came from a place called Dove Holes in Derbyshire.
Right.
And I was up there. I do a one-man theatre show. And I was up there in Buxton.
Oh, yeah.
And I was chatting to someone, and they said, Dove Holes is just down the road. I said, no. They said, a couple of miles, nothing. So I went, and, bless him, his name's on the war memorial as well, which was so cool. TH shirt.
You see, the thing is, people might think that, history is, I mean, why the people ask me why you're interested in history. It's all dusty books and the whole thing, but it's not. Especially when you get down to this level, it is ordinary lives that get interrupted, sometimes horrendously, by world events. And it's not about the strategic. It's not about the bomber Harris or the Chindits or that. It's actually about young men and young women, going to fight and, answering the call willingly, or whatever. And then for many of them, not, like I said, and they're having to find them somewhere sort of thousands of miles from their birthplace.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And for me, it is the medal that takes me there, you see. When I started collecting these with Dad, there was no internet. We're talking 1969, 70, 71. Yeah. There's no internet. So the only thing that I could do was go off and find out about the battle that the medal related to.
Right.
So I learned a lot about battles over the years, about where these people had gone to. So Sumatra or the Somme or Passchendaele or wherever it was. And then one day when I was about 10, Dad said to me, so why do you think this bloke whose medal we've just bought, why do you think he joined the army? Now, I'm 10, so I said, well, he wanted to be a soldier, be a hero, have a rifle. And my dad said, yeah, But you know what? Maybe he was hungry, and that's the only job he could get. And that was the moment that medals stopped being medals and started being people. And when they started being people, that was me utterly fascinated. Who were these people who went off and did these things? Where did they come from? What did they want to do in life? Where did they go after this? What happened to it? And so as time went on, I learned a lot about battles because you couldn't find out about the people. But sometime during the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, stuff that you could find out about the people started to come onto the internet. So all of a sudden, I've got this huge collection of medals of people, men and women, and now I can actually go out and find out who they are. Now, I've got quite a lot of medals, and I've still got a box with several hundreds in that Dad and I collected back in the 70s that I haven't got round yet to finding out who they are. So I've still got all of that sort of excitement to come one day when I actually get a chance to sit down. You know, I've still got hundreds of stories to find. When a new one comes these days, you find the story quite quickly and you sort of make your file up and do all the stuff that you do. But it will be fun to go back through all those ones that we bought all those years ago that I genuinely don't know who they were, what they did. I have got a group of medals to a chap that his name is Lieutenant Eric Welsh.
Yeah.
His First World War. It's just a pair of medals. That's it. Nothing else. All I knew was that he was in the Royal Flying Corps. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
And when I eventually got round to researching him, he was a pilot of an aircraft with an observer, a man called Tollervey, and they were shot down in April 1917 by Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron.
Otherwise known as, exactly.
Yeah, the Red Baron.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I've had these medals for ages, but now all of a sudden, wow, what a story. And that's the thrill of this. It's finding the person, and the medal is the sort of the time machine that takes you back to find out what happened to these people. Because, as you said, they are just it's me and you. Yeah. They're ordinary people. They just did extraordinary things, and that's the bit that fascinates.
And here's the thing, Mark, because I mean, as you find out in the book Medal Man, is the fact that if you say you're a military historian, people might go, oh, if they don't know what they're talking about, which is most of the population, and myself included, go, oh, you're just glorifying war, and you just like the shiny brass medal, and you don't. It's like no. What you don't understand is the reason that we do military history is because the battles, as you said, are the places that you start from. And if you were like me and had an Encyclopedia Britannica and then spent your entire time in the library, I am that kid. You know, that is the only key that you used to have, because we didn't used to do social histories about. The only thing we'd know about is the Pals Brigade, in the First World War, the Pals, and that was and that door was firmly shut, because at that point, you know, our grandfathers or our great grandfathers they definitely didn't want to talk about what they'd been through.
No, this has always been the problem that when I talk to families, they always say, Grandad never told me the story, which is such a shame, because, you know, that 3 years in the trenches, or that trip across Africa with the desert rats, you know, I mean, it's such a shame that we've lost these stories. And medal and me and military history is absolutely nothing about glorifying war. The one thing that I want people to understand is that these are devastating periods of time. And the bit that everybody should be proud of is the fact that these people, just ordinary people, milkmen, bank clerks, labourers, coal miners, all these sorts of people, they didn't want to go and do this. No one wants to go and do this. But they did. And it's not about how exciting war is, none of that stuff. My entire life really has just been fascinated by people who just answer the call. Yeah. And I suppose there's a bit of you that thinks, could I do that? Really? Could I do that? And that's the bit that fascinates me, because these people were just the same as us, and they probably sat there and thought, wow, can I do that? And they did it. And that's the bit that gets you.
Because there is a thing. Well, there's two things here. Because you said there's one, there's the idea of, and some might think empire is an old-fashioned thing. But there's the whole thing of service. And B, you make a very good point about why he's a soldier, because he's hungry. I mean, I'm not going to bash on about that. But my grandfather is a miner in Scotland. Second World War comes, right? He joins he becomes a Royal Engineer. And it changes his life, because not only does he do Sword Beach and also the campaigns of Italy as well, but he stays in the army after that, and he ends up in Stafford, where my mother then meets my father. You know, if that hadn't been for the Second World War, no me, basically, which might be a double-edged sword. But you see what I mean? And it changes people's lives. So he goes from being, a very young, poor Glaswegian miner to being a regimental sergeant major in the Royal Engineers, and then a civil career after 1965. Life-changing,
Exactly. It is exactly that. And that's the fascinating thing about the medal. You see, because from the medal, that's the gate. So if you gave me those, I could find not all of that story, but I could find a lot of that story. And there again, I've rebuilt that person's life. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, I knew a guy who was an Egyptologist once, and I was talking to him about medals. Yeah. And I was talking to him about the fact that the medal allows me to bring these people back to life again, wherever they were. Battle of Waterloo, Charge of the Light Brigade, First World War, wherever it was, Korea. Yeah. And my friend said to me, do you know the last line in the Egyptian Book of the Dead is, "Speak my name and I shall live forever." Ooh. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. So if you know the name of Augustus Gully, right, well, Augustus Gully is a real person, and Augustus Gully charged with the Light Brigade. And I've got his medals. And Augustus Gully is never going to be forgotten because I know his name.
Because that's the way to get immortality. Now,
yeah, the
thing is, though, this book is subtitled Dad, Me in the Second World War. Well, your dad's already immortal, but it must be a different kettle of fish, quote unquote. When you're dealing with somebody like Augustus Gully, that's removed. But this is your dad. Yeah. This is your dad, and this is somebody that your dad was really close to, who you never met, but you went thousands of miles across the world to go see. So how do you detach yourself, Mark, from writing when you have to write this thing without becoming a complete blubbering mess, basically?
You become a complete blubbering mess. Excellent. And then you stop and you start again. Simple as that, really. Yeah. I read the audiobook. So if you get the audiobook, it's me me reading it to you. And it took 3 days, and there were a couple of moments in a couple of chapters where we all stopped and had a cup of tea.
Got very dusty. Those medals do,
Yeah, they do, don't they? Yeah, and we started again. Yeah, it's hard work. It's hard work just to say some of the lines, because the lines are real. So when I came home that Friday, and Dad had died that evening while I was out somewhere, and I walked in, and my wife came out the front room and she said, "We've lost Dad." That's actually a hard line to say. So yeah.
So, what are you hoping that people will learn and discover from the Medal Man? Because it's not all about you, is it? It's about what is called the greatest generation. But they just answered. The call came and they answered it.
Yeah, people will know me hopefully from the television, and they'll know my passion with medals. Yeah, and what you learn is a lot about me, I suppose, but also you learn a lot about what shaped me to be the person that I am with the medals that I love, and why I talk to the people like I do on the television. Because everyone always says to me, you are so respectful. And I say, well, I can't not be, because these are real people. This is a true story. In the book, you'll find out I was knocked down by a car, and I died 3 times in a day. And my life was saved by the London Air Ambulance. And I'm an ambassador for the London Air Ambulance. Yeah. We did a fundraising thing, and my wife and we got invited to the launch of the 2 new helicopters. And the chap who was, the VIP was Prince William. And they said to us, when he comes over, you call him sir and all that sort of stuff. He walked over and he went, "Hello, Mark." And I went, "Oh, hello, this is Helen." He went, "Hi, Helen." And we started to chat. And the equerry guy, and this is true, and you've got to listen to what I'm going to say now. The equerry guy said to him, "This is Mark Smith. Ready? He's one of our squashed celebrities." Okay.
Oh.
Right? And he said, you might recognise him, sir, from the Antiques Roadshow. And this is what he said. Are you ready?
Yeah.
He said, yes, I don't watch the Antiques Roadshow, but my wife does. And when I told her I was meeting you today, she said, well, you tell him he's the man who makes me cry every Sunday.
Oh, mate. I mean, that's outstanding.
There you go.
The man who made the Princess of Wales cry, eh?
Yeah.
Every Sunday.
Yeah. And you'll be surprised how many people come up to me in the street and go, really big, taxi drivers and lorry drivers, and they shout, oi, you make me cry.
Do you still get that sort of frisson when you sit down in some town hall or whatever, and because you don't kind of know what's coming in? I mean, it's not all live, but you've got no idea what's coming. It's a bit like Russell Crowe Gladiator. We have no idea what's coming through those doors, do we?
Exactly. No, nothing at all. No, it's what comes out the carrier bag. So you have to know what it is, what it's worth, what war, what country, what it's for. And then you say to them, where'd you get it from? And that's the moment when the story starts. Now, because I know quite a lot about battles and I know quite a lot about things that were used in battles, what I'm looking for is them to say something that I can expand upon on television so that the viewer is interested, find something out new, they find something out new. So what I'm looking for is the hook. And that's the hook that is it's the crux to the whole thing. And the way that I do it is you see the thing, you think, I can film this. So you go and present it to the producers. Then you go away and look for more stuff. And then eventually, hopefully, you get the call that says your camera is at 2:30 or whatever.
Yeah.
And what I do is I go off, and as I walk down to the camera, it's the second time I've ever seen this thing, but as I go down to the camera, I sit there and think, this is my first line. And if I get my first line right, the rest of it follows.
I'm getting broadcasting 101 from here, Mark. I'm just making spurious notes here for my next shows and whatever. Here's the thing, because people rock up with the Antique Roadshow and they say, I've got this this doll or this toy dog or whatever, or this, that, and the other. They found out, I've got this wardrobe. But with medals, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a family connection. So presumably, 9 times out of 10, the people who bring them, they just want to know the story. They don't want to sell them. They just want to know the story and understand, like we said, because this wasn't talked about. And so in a way, and I'm not going to get all deep and meaningless, but you're giving them a therapy, and you're almost taking them back to the great uncle, to the grandfather.
It's exactly that. When I say, who is it, and they say granddad, that's everybody's granddad that we're now talking about. That's not just that particular person. So the thing that I've got is I've got an instant connection with people because I'm talking about a family member. And that's the bit, I think, that resonates with a lot of people on the show when they watch it, is that it's not just a chair, bless the people who do chairs, but it is actually granddad.
Brilliant. Listen, the book is called Medal Man, Dad, Me in the Second World War. It's by Mark Smith. Mark, is there an official website for you, by the way? Can people find what you're up to?
Yeah, it's called Medal Expert.
Right, marvellous. Well, the book is called Medal Man, Dad, Me in the Second World War. It's by Mark Smith. Mark, it's been an absolute eye-opener and an absolute pleasure to speak to you today.
Thank you. No problem.